large group of individuals. Every one of them is committed to protecting the safety of our residents, particularly here in Monroe County. I do want to first of all acknowledge our great mayor. You'll be hearing from him momentarily, but we've been working literally in close partnership since he first became mayor to deal with some of the great challenges we have in a city like Rochester, not unlike other cities, but we've seen crime go up over a number of years, and now, thank God, we're seeing crime go down. You'll hear more about that. Also, our chief of the Rochester Police Department, David Smith, again, another strong partner of ours at the state level as we continue to share resources and ideas and intelligence to make sure we do what we do to stop crimes. Our Congressman Joe Morelli is here. Thank you for fighting. Joe, where are you?
I'm over here.
Okay. Joe, thank you for fighting the good fight. I know it's been pretty tough out there, but we're very fortunate to have you as our voice for this region and the state. Our County Executive, Adam Bello, I want to thank our County Executive for his stewardship of a great county and the partnership we have. And he's always asking for more money, and the answer is usually yes, so he's very effective. And again, another strong ally in law enforcement, our Sheriff Todd Baxter, a new district attorney, Brian Green. Welcome to the job. It's an important one, and I know you've only been on since September, but congratulations. My partners in state government, Senator Jeremy Cooney, Harry Bronson, our Assembly member, Jennifer Lunsford, our Assembly member, and our Director of the Monroe County Crime Analysis Center, David Phelps. So I'm proud to be here, joining the brave men and women of the Rochester PD. And whether they're new recruits or longtime veterans, they have that strong sense of mission. And that mission is to use every single day as an opportunity to create a safe space, a safe environment, a safe city, a safe county for our residents. And I want to thank them. That's why I come here. I go all over the state, thanking men and women in law enforcement for what they do for us every single day. And I'll also say this about Rochester, since it's basically home turf for me. We share a passion for the Bills. We share part of the thruway together, and a lot of other similarities. As I'm from Buffalo, Rochester, and I did have the privilege of representing part of this county as a member of Congress. But I started seeing some statistics and cases, high-profile cases, that were deeply concerning to me. And even just a year ago, I stood here at City Hall and made a vow that I will give you all the tools you need. I'll give you whatever you need to make sure that you have the latest in technology so we can try to stay at least one step ahead of the criminal elements, or when a crime has been committed, to solve it and bring justice to victims as fast as possible. We literally had to surge state police to assist here on the ground. We secured extra funding for grassroots organizations. So important to me is how we can reach out to young people and help them find a better path before they go down the wrong road toward a life of crime. And so we focused on mentorship and keeping kids away from crime. And we allocated $24 million for Monroe County to purchase the best crime-fighting technology they could buy. That included $10 million for the Rochester PD. And today I'm able to see some of these tools up close. We'll be acquiring more drones. We were able to secure the CD printer. And also, we're going to be getting new blue light cameras. And I just had a tour where they're monitoring over 150 cameras and watched just a crime that was committed yesterday, theft of a handbag. And you could see the individuals. You could zoom in, but it was kind of grainy, and it wasn't great. It turned out this technology is from 2005. So 20 years ago, you were ahead of your time, but time has passed. And it's time now for you to have the security money from the state to be able to acquire a whole new system, which is going to revolutionize the ability for the communications between the dispatch and people on the grounds and those operating the drones to be able to hopefully prevent crimes in the future. So these cameras will be a game changer. And as I mentioned, live footage is just amazing to see, but I know it can be enhanced even better. And this also gives a chance for first responders and paramedics to get on the scene faster so they have a better chance of saving lives. So this is an important part of a holistic approach that I have to law enforcement and public safety. And we've made major investments. There's no talk of ever defunding law enforcement under my watch. We've allocated over $3 billion just in the 4 years that I've been governor of this great state. And with that money, we've bolstered initiatives that have been supported here in Rochester, the Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Initiative, our SNUG street outreach programs, as I mentioned. People sometimes have been through the system themselves. They're the best advocates to go back to the streets and help young people find a different path than they were on. Project Rise, as well as our crime analysis centers. You know, when I first became governor, we had a handful of them. Now we have 11. And this is a tool for every law enforcement agency across the state to partner with us to have data analyzed very quickly and really connect the dots from what might be seen in one county. Perhaps it's people dealing in gun traffic guns or human trafficking. We can connect them all across the state. So these are unprecedented investments, but that alone wasn't enough. We actually had to make some changes to laws that have been put in place, well-intended, but had gone to a place where it made it too difficult for law enforcement to keep communities safe. That's why we fought hard. I fought hard for stronger bail laws in 2 consecutive legislative sessions. Just recently, we passed stronger discovery laws with the support of DAs from all across the state, so we can make sure that justice is received for defendants, but also for victims, and to stop the number of cases that were being just dismissed on very minor technicalities. We also have the strongest red flag laws in the entire country, which keep guns out of the hands of those who would do harm to themselves or to others. And I'm really proud that all these efforts are finally paying off, that the trajectory that we had seen just a few short years ago, and indeed even a year ago, of crime rates all going up, have taken a dramatic turn in the other direction. Let's just talk about Rochester compared to last year. Overall crime is down 18%. Violent crime is down 25%. Murders are down 50%. And robberies are down 32%. And as I mentioned, I was here a year ago. Actually, there was a number of times I came here, maybe 3 or 4 times, where we convened all the law enforcement agencies from the U.S. Attorney on down and sat and talked about some of the challenges we face. And one of the more recent ones had been car thefts. And it was in Rochester that I came and saw, what is going on here? How is this possible that this has some of the highest car theft rates in the entire nation? And it turned out that there was this TikTok challenge video, and a lot of young people were making very stupid decisions and using technology glitches that allowed them to steal Hyundais and Kias. So we came here, and I want to point out one very happy statistic that car thefts in this area are down 68% since 2023 when we launched this initiative. So that's so it shows that when we zero in, using technology, using the resources, the man and woman power, and having a state that is there to support, we can make a real difference. And even, let's just look at the first 9 months of this year compared to 2021 when I first took over. Shooting incidences in Rochester that were skyrocketing are down 57%, and shooting victims are down 60%. That's extraordinary, because there was a time when it seemed like those numbers were never going to start turning downward, ever upward it seemed. And now we're showing dramatic progress, and that means more people are healthy. They're not suffering from injuries, life-threatening injuries that they endured during a horrific crime, or the families that have to endure that empty seat as the holidays approach because they lost a loved one to gun violence. That means there's real lives, more people living normal lives untouched by the specter of crime. So in my opinion, that's how you fight crime. You fund the police at record levels, you equip them with the best technology, you improve coordination between agencies, you engage young people before they head down the wrong path, and you change laws, make them laws that are rooted in common sense. And so I would also just point out that contrast what we're doing here in the state of New York with Washington. This is not what the federal government is doing for us. They're wasting a lot of resources, pulling together literally FBI agents who could be helping, help us fight terrorism and crimes coming across the borders, and the work that the FBI does. It's very important work. Many of them and others in law enforcement have now been converted into ICE agents because that has been the priority. The priority was supposed to be to go after the worst of the worst, the baddest of the bad. And that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing it in the streets of Rochester. We're not seeing it in the rural farms and factories where the raids are occurring. We're not seeing it in the streets of New York. So federal government, contrary to what we're doing, they're wasting resources. They're targeting innocent individuals. They're sending masked ICE agents into our cities. And they're also defunding the police. And I had to point this out to the president on a phone call when he tried to cut $187 million in federal Homeland Security money, something that Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem wanted to happen. She slashed crucial counterterrorism funding here in the state of New York. And this is not just a concern in New York City. My husband used to be the United States Attorney. He's well familiar with some high-profile cases we had right here in Buffalo and in Rochester in particular. So they thought they could cut this money. I called up the president and said, "You really want to defund police? Not a good look." That would have also lost $900,000 from Monroe County Sheriff's Office as well, which is taken away. So this also would have defunded our bomb squads, our tactical and K-9 teams as well. So we stepped in. We also have an attorney general who stepped in to help take this to court. And so I just want the message out there. You touch our law enforcement money, which cripples our ability to fight the worst of the worst, because that's who we are going after. You've got to get through us first. We'll rise up. We'll use our voices. We'll go to court and do whatever we can to ensure that the resources to a place like the Sheriff's Department, our local police departments, and the state police, as well as NYPD, are always going to be there. So we're not defunding police. We're prepared to fight back. And I will say we've come a long, long way. And despite talking about these very positive numbers, you'll never hear me say mission accomplished, because there's always one more person out there trying to commit a crime, and that is why our job is never over. But I want to thank the men and women who've made this job so much better, because there's more people living a crime-free experience, not being victims, because of the efforts of the men and women who are members of our sworn police officers all across the state. So to all of you, I'm grateful. These numbers are astounding. I'm very proud of them, but I'm never going to say we're done. We have much more work to do, and you can count on me as a long-term partner in the effort to keep the great state of New York safe. And with that, let me bring up our Mayor, Malik Evans.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor, for being here. And just let me be clear, my first day in office, we know that in 2021, when I got elected, when I took office 2022, Rochester had the highest homicide rate that we had ever had in the history of numbers that were being kept at that time. My first day in office, Governor, I don't know if you remember this, you were the first, yourself and Adam Bello were the first two elected officials that I met with on the Monday where I took office over at REOC. And since then, it has been a strong partnership as it relates to public safety. You will oftentimes hear people in our business in elected office talk about how important public safety is, but they don't want to put their money where their mouth is. This governor in the state of New York has brought so many resources to Rochester. You heard the numbers, and the numbers bear out that when those resources follow the words, you get results. And the results that the governor just mentioned speaks for themselves. And I'll give you another data point. New York State, under the governor's leadership, also funds for us, along with the district attorney, our non-fatal shooting program. Rochester's non-fatal shooting clearance rate is double the rest of the country, and that is a result of the resources that New York State has put here in Rochester. Our GIVE program, Rochester has gotten some of the largest increases in GIVE funding, and as a result, you heard those numbers that the governor is talking about. And then lastly, I'll say is you see some of the technology and resources that are here. Those are things that often in a city that is stretched, we can't afford a lot of those important innovation technology pieces that are so important to helping to combat and solve crime. So when you have a governor that says, I'm not only gonna help give you the people resources, but also the equipment, that goes a long way in the city of Rochester. So I think that Rochester is a model, not only for the rest of the state, but also the rest of the country. But it's also a model of what happens when you have multiple levels of government working together, not talking about it, but doing it. And Kathy Hochul has been doing that for as long as she's been in office. And I will tell you, over the last 4 years, it's been an honor to work with someone who knows how to get, it's before lunch, so I'll say stuff done. She knows how to get stuff done, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you, Governor, for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Our Chief of Police, David Smith. Let me slide over here.
Thank you, Governor. I'll be brief. Two very hard acts to follow, but you know, the mayor and I were talking before coming in here, and we've been through a lot in the past 4 years in this administration. A lot of good, a lot of bad, but the good and the progress, I think, far outweighs the negative. And although we're not where we really need to be, thanks to the hard work, the men and women of the Rochester Police Department, our partners in the Sheriff's Office, our federal partners, and certainly because of the state programs, the state funding, the GIVE program, the non-fatal shooting program, we are a long way from what we used to be. So again, appreciate the support, certainly appreciate the funding. You know, we couldn't bring you all into the command post to show you, because it's a very sensitive area, but you know, like the governor said, our current camera system is over 20 years old. And it's not just the cameras, it's the infrastructure that supports those cameras. I mean, we still have antennas on top of buildings that are relaying the information to us. So having a system that truly was developed in this century is going to be a game changer for us. And it's a multi-year project. It's going to be a little bit till we get it up and running. But I think you will see, again, more significant results driving us toward our ultimate goal of keeping the citizens of Rochester, the citizens of Monroe County safe. So thank you.
I'll stay up here in case stay here in case there's any off topic. Mayor, want to talk about if there's any off topic, or on topic, right?
Yep.
All right.
Hi guys, we have time for just a couple on-topic questions. Does anybody have any on-topic questions at this time? No on-topic?
All right.
All right, thanks guys. We'll just take a second to excuse our friends.
All right,
from
we're
lunch.
good then. All right.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for
All right, thank you. Okay. Close the door. Okay. All right. Just a couple questions.
Thanks guys. We're on a bit of a tight schedule today, so we have time for a couple off topics.
She'll call on who
Yep,
she wants.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Okay.
Governor, I wanted to ask about power in New York State and the electric grid. We have done some reporting recently on a lack of electricity availability for a number of towns, almost all of Ontario County, that can't get current development projects hooked up because there's no power left. I'm wondering, in light of what you're seeing across the state, if you're considering delaying the January implementation of the All-Electric Act.
You know, we just received correspondence from some upstate members of the legislature, so we're looking at that seriously. You know, I've made affordable housing one of my top priorities, and we look about what's happening, what are the real drivers of why housing is expensive and it's going to get worse. I want to also point out the fact that the tariffs, especially the fact that just hours ago, President Trump literally shut down negotiations with Canada, our largest trading partner, especially for the state of New York, about a $50, $60 billion trade arrangement. And what comes across the border is wood for housing, aluminum for housing, steel for housing. So all of those commodities are going to continue to just wreak havoc in our system where we're trying to build housing with a finite amount of dollars. And so I think that's something that you called out immediately. And on the electric building issue, I'm looking for an all-the-above approach. I really want to make sure that we're being thoughtful about this. I know the laws that are in place. We have made some accommodations in the past, like the electric buses. We had to delay that some time because there's not enough electric buses being built. So I'm going to look at this with a very realistic approach and do what I can, because my number one focus is affordability right now, because New Yorkers are suffering too much.
Speaking of that, RG&E and NYSEG in this area are asking for a significant increase from their consumers. They point to many of these state mandates as a reason why they need more money. I know you've commented on this before, and you've asked the PSC to strongly look at that request, but how do you balance these mandates with that request?
No, these are things I have to balance. These are things I absolutely have to look at. Some of these mandates have been in place since 2018, and we're dealing with some realities now that we didn't expect to see a global pandemic that shut down supply chain matters, which has driven up the cost of a lot of things. Inflation has driven up. These tariffs have driven up the cost. And so I'm always the more, as a pragmatic individual, looking at, like, what's the reality here? And what are we really asking people to do in light of changed circumstances from when, very ambitious but well-meaning and important goals were set in place? What does it look like a few years later, and are we able to meet them? So I assure you we're looking at all of this.
When do you think you might have any final decisions?
Well, on legislation, it's got to be by the end of this year, but I'm also putting together my package of bills for the next session. We're working on our state of the state packages as we speak. But I will tell you, energy and affordability are very much top of mind in all those deliberations.
We have time for one more very quick off-topic. Great,
I have
thank
one
you.
more. The National Guard, a couple of the folks behind you signed on yesterday to a bill.
Did anybody else have a question?
Yep, sorry, Jeffrey, not quite a few, we gotta get out.
Okay.
Local Media and Untracked Ministries, our digital group. Thank you for the money and the resources that you've given to the grassroots nonprofit organizations. One of the things that we're looking to do is unite those efforts with local municipalities and government. From a grassroots standpoint, it's kind of been hard to do such. They have their programs on the grassroots as we have ours. Is there anything that you can do from your office, from your seat, to encourage these local governments to work with these nonprofit, grassroots, smaller organizations, not the bigger organizations, the smaller organizations such as myself who has received this funding, to be a part of what's going on in our community? We see great things happening, but not all the time. All of the time, the small guys aren't a part of the narrative because, there's bigger agendas in place. So
I understand.
we need some type of support from larger government to come into, a community like Rochester, New York, and encourage those type of alliances and not just have them be handpicked.
I agree with you
Thank
100%.
for the resources
No,
that you did give.
we're doing the resources, but if they're not getting out to where we need them deployed at the most effective way to reach the most young people, then they're not working the way I want them to. So let's follow up on that. I think that's a great. You had one question?
Great, thank you.
I was asking about, they had signed on, there was some legislation talked about yesterday that would prevent the feds from issuing any national, or moving any National Guard into New York State. Had you seen that?
I think that's talked about being introduced for the next session, so that hasn't even been introduced or passed by the Assembly or passed by the Senate, so that sounds like it's something that'll be on our desks for sure next year. But no, these are very disturbing times with respect to what ICE is doing, but we have to make sure that whatever ideas are out there, and there's many ideas, that they actually can be implemented legally and have actually the effects that we're looking for. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming out.